That was my least favorite part of managing.
They don't get mad. Just do shop hats.
I wish you would. What are you?
Everyone is, it feels like spring is here. Fire, I think I saw it driving today. It's where I'm just really that warm. Great to see everybody. Announcements to get us started. Thanks, Desert Sun, for coffee this month. We didn't have an outside coffee sponsor, so we want to continue to thank Desert Sun for providing coffee. We do have a sponsor next month. There's a couple of holes in it. So if you're interested, there's a sign-up sheet. We'll buy the coffee this morning. Also had someone who's here this morning just say, hey, how do I become a member? I've been to a meeting or two and would like to learn more. So Michelle or Mike, if you're new to coming to the meeting and would like to learn more about membership and the Economic Alliance, please reach out to Mike, Michelle, or any one of us on the board. Before we get started, just want to see if there's anyone who's been here or not been here before, and this is the first time joining us. If you are, please stand up and we'll have you just introduce yourself.
I'll go first.
Please.
Sort of step back. My name is Tom Hilsebeck. The new doctor of pharmacy in town. Just moved down Sunday from Golden, and I got the invite from my buddy Glenn Moselle. Happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just a quick board update. Continue to be working on, a couple pillars of our strategic plan that we put into place about 3 years ago. You'll hear some updates on some of the activities in collaboration around workforce, housing. We're also coming at the tail end of that kind of 3-year plan, and so we're looking as a board to sometime this summer, evaluating that strategic plan, seeing if there's things we need to look out over the next couple of years and alter or change. Not anticipating that that's going to like wholesale change directions overall. We think the things we're working on still remain relevant and important, but want to step back and make sure our focus for the next several years continues to be directed in the right way and give Mike, Michelle, and the team the support they need from the board level. So those are some things that we'll be working on over the coming months from the board side. With that, I'll hand things over to Mike to give some updates from the last month. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Morning.
Good morning.
We have one.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, good morning. I tried to get my mic unmuted there when you were asking for introductions. My name is Todd Fanny. I work for Souder Miller and Associates. One of my colleagues out of another office used to attend the meeting on a regular basis. I couldn't be there with you in person this time, but I'm joining first time via Zoom, and I hope to be there in person in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a good audio check. All right, first of all, I'd like to thank renewal of members, Jones Lang LaSalle, Frederick Zink and Associates, Farha Roofing, and Jasper. Thank you so much for Triangle Space. So we're going to go ahead and announce a save the date for the Alliance Summit 2023. That's going to be Wednesday, September 20th. It will be at the Skye Casino. You guys remember when we came back from COVID, the theme was rehumanizing work, taking back to 2021. And Steve Cadigan, the author, was one of the keynote speakers. We still have some of his books, Workquake. So it's we've got some books at the back of the table from a couple of the authors that have previously been at the summit. The last year was Leading with Heart, and Edward Sullivan with the book title Leading with Heart was one of our keynote speakers, and his book is back there as well. So if you leave, you're interested in one of these books, unfortunately they're not signed, but we did have some extra books, and we'd love to distribute them to you guys. If we run out of books, we'll have some available next month as well. So we don't have any keynote speakers to announce yet, but we do have a soft commit from a speaker that flew in. It was one of the best received speakers from the last couple of years. And so we're going to bring that person back and then work really hard to complement that person to have a really strong lineup for 2023. Really excited about that. The Catalyst Fund. So the first round, the Catalyst Fund closed this last Friday. We got 5 applications in, which we're really excited about. The committee we'll start to review those in earnest this week, score those applications, and then we'll do our best to see if we can't announce the funding of those applications in the next meeting. The RHA meeting will be this Thursday in this location. Is that correct? Yeah. In the afternoon at 2 to 4. 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I'm sure there'll be conversations, discussions around the applications. We'll also have a lot of discussions about Proposition 123 and how as a community we get in line for the monies, state monies from 123. Round 2, so this is first round. Round 2 will open up in June or July, depending on how quickly we can get round 1 out. And then we have an expectation to carry this into 2024. Right now, we have a soft commit from grants and our public partners, so the foundations have yet to commit. But without the foundations, we have over $600,000 committed into this Catalyst Fund. So we think we can stretch this, especially if the foundations come to the table, which could potentially double the Catalyst Fund. We think we can stretch this into next year and really impact some workforce-oriented projects. So just as a reminder, my apologies, the Catalyst Fund is there to stimulate workforce housing, pre-development funding. I think Sarah talked about this last month. Go to the Yes LPC site, and in the top line nav, you'll see Catalyst Fund. Click on it. There's 2 or 3 pages, including the application. So if you're interested in next round funding, as well as a detailed I think, is the metrics up there in terms of how it's scored? But it's in the application.
Yes, it is, yeah.
But a detailed description of the Catalyst Fund. We still have internship money, so we will likely start to close that up in the fall. So we're going to carry it through the summer. We're anxious to write companies that have potential to hire and want to take an intern, especially a recent grad. We're anxious to write you a $3,000 check to do that, right? And that's $20 an hour for 150 hours. So come see Michelle. We probably next month we can announce a couple more interns and maybe go through a list of all the companies that have done that. So please come take our money, come see us. Again, the focus is not free labor or gophers. We're really trying to get solid candidates in the door and see if we can't figure out a head count and put these guys to work, guys or gals to work. We'll talk a lot more about workforce development. Steve Elias is going to talk a little bit about the grant that the Alliance and the FLC and a couple of other folks partnered with. But if that comes to fruition, we'll probably have a lot of workforce development activity in the next 3 years. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in May and June event. We just had a really tight election. I hope everybody voted because your voice and your vote was very important, obviously, to the point that we don't even have a second candidate elect yet. But we're very fortunate to have Gilda Yazzie here, and Joe will introduce her in a second. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. And I think we'll get some news this week as to what the curing and the recount looks like. Is that correct, Jasper? Okay.
April 12th.
April 12th, and so they'll be sworn in the next couple of next meeting. Okay, excellent. That, Joe, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you for being here. Thank you,
Gilda, congratulations on the city council position. Want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Gilda Yazzie, and I'm sure you read most of the articles in the paper, but I did graduate from the business school at Fort Lewis College. Economy works here. But I'd just like to say that I'm so grateful to the Durango community that they elected me, and I look forward to serving everybody in a nonpartisan way and help promote the growth of Durango while also keeping in mind that our communities deserve everything that the city council can provide them. And some of the things that I found out just on the campaign trail was that most people are really, they enjoy living here and they would like to retain the, the safety features. The neighborhoods are doing really well. They would like a little bit better snow removal, but what can we do? We had a really great amount of snow because one of my favorite things to do was to ski, so I really enjoyed that. But at any rate, I would like to offer my time to anybody if they would like to get a hold of me. My email is gildayazzie@gmail.com, but next week they're going to change it to the City of Durango. But I do welcome any input, and if you have any questions or concerns, after the 18th, I will be a certified council member. Right now, I'm still a member elect. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for your interest in serving the community, and thanks to the other candidates for other announcements, sounds like in the next meeting. Next, where is Tom? There's Tommy. I want to welcome up Tommy Crosby to give some updates on the downtown corridor, City of Durango. Thanks, Tommy.
Morning, everyone. Tommy Crosby, Economic Opportunity Manager at the City of Durango. I'll make this quick. A couple updates. So you may have seen on Main Ave, the 2023 Bump Out program has rolled out. Wanted to just name a couple changes that y'all will be seeing. This here is a photo of the 700 block. So Durango Rug Company, switchback, fired up, derailed. What we're trying on the 700 block is kind of a sneak peek or a kind of demo of one of the elements of downtown's next step, the large community engagement project that the community development department underwent last year. And what this is doing, so I'll go into this in the next couple slides, but really it's just giving a demo of what expanding the sidewalks would look like. So the sidewalk is bumped out by about 6 feet, and in place of bump outs this year, all of those businesses, switchback, fired up, and derailed, are going to have a more robust bistro table kind of setup. So outdoor dining pushed up against the building, kind of your traditional cafe style, instead of having the dining experience out in the street. So once those bistro table areas are set up, the hope is that folks will just naturally bump out onto that expanded sidewalk. We did want to include a railing this year, just for the sake of this only being one section of the 700 block. Wanted to take all the safety precautions that we could. Downtown's next step would not have a railing on the edge of the sidewalk, but something cool. So go check it out. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear more about it. And so on that, just wanted to give folks kind of a refresh and reminder of some of those elements of the Downtown's Next Step project. Currently, our community development team handed it off to our transportation and multimodal department. And what they're doing is they're really looking at the nuts and bolts of things. They're trying to get understanding looking at our utilities, figuring out if this project is really even plausible. What this photo is showing is what the majority of streets in downtown Maine are going to look like. It's a cross section. So that element that I showed on the last slide of those expanded sidewalks, that's really the main element that we're going to be incorporating. We're still going to have a north and southbound lane of travel, and then most blocks are gonna have that center turn lane as well. So we're not gonna be shutting down Main, we're not gonna be having a pedestrian mall. It's really just trying to enhance the pedestrian experience as much as possible by bumping out those sidewalks. And then this will be one more view. This is right out front, where we are, the 800 block Main Mall. Just trying to give you another idea, toying around with the idea of mid-block crossings. Again, another enhancement to the pedestrian safety experience. You'll see a shot of those center turn lanes. There's a few on Main, but really making that more of a centerpiece. And then this is just a pretty rendering, again, right out front of Main Mall, just to try to make it relevant today. Expanded sidewalks, enhanced seating space for businesses to use if that's of interest. You can see that kind of that red center turn lane, that mid-block pedestrian crossing. Just wanted to give y'all a bit of a reminder as bump outs are deployed again this year. You start seeing the streetscape being used in ways other than just for vehicles. We're happy to answer any questions. By no means is this rolling out next year or the year after that. Our bump out program got approved for a 5-year pilot. So we have started to kind of fine tune the dials on that program. We're having some enhanced compliance this year, which is working out great. We have a great set of design guidelines that we haven't had the team to enforce. We have a new code compliance staff member this year who's already been out on the beat. Who's making weekly rounds, making sure that our bump outs are fitting with the aesthetic of Main as best as possible. I'm happy to answer any questions if you want to grab me after, but I just wanted to give folks a bit of a refresh of what's going on Main Ave. Thank you.
I appreciate the preview so we know what to expect this summer and why we're seeing some changes. Next is Steve Elias to give some updates from Wilderness College.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I just want to give you some super high-level info on the state of affairs at Fort Lewis College, particularly coming out of COVID. I don't know if you've looked in the media at all, you've seen higher ed enrollments have been down a lot since COVID. Washington Post probably a couple months ago reported that over the past 2 years since COVID hit, the average institution of higher education is down 14% in enrollment over the past 2 years. That's a big number, 14%. So I wanted to share with you where we're at, and I'll steal my own thunder. We were actually up after COVID. So, and as dean of the business school, I figured I'd put in some business school numbers too, especially since how many business school alum do we have? Excellent. Thank you for being here, including our new city council. I'm nervous. So I got here in 2017, Dean Thomas was still president. We were nervous because we were about to drop below 3,000 students. In the state of Colorado, dropping below 3,000 students, without going into the weeds, it's not a good thing. It sets off all sorts of triggers at the state level. There's some talk of an infusion of cash from the state, which is never good because then that means you actually need an infusion of cash from the state. And we avoided that scenario. And then fast forward to 2018, we were at 3,317 distinct students. And I want to split hairs for a second. Distinct students is important to point out because that's different from majors. So if we were talking about majors, let's assume for a second, every student was a double major, that number would be 6,634. So this is just distinct students regardless of their majors or anything along those lines. So we were at 3,317, fall of 19, held pretty steady. And then COVID hit fall of 20. CU and CSU both were down double-digit percentages in enrollment. I'm on the college's budget advisory committee. We budgeted for a 7.5% decline in enrollment. A few of our trustees thought that was not a large enough of a decline to plan for. A few trustees wanted us to plan for a 10% decline in enrollment. We stuck with 7.5%. We were up 4%. And so we had a surplus, which is awesome.
right? And then we thought, well, maybe it'll hit us next year, which would have been fall 21, and then we were up almost another 4%. And so we really weathered the COVID storm very well. There's all sorts of theories as to why. Small rural school, not in the big city, not massive crowd, but frankly, we'll take the win, right? We did have some students who we can say for sure would have gone to the Front Range to go to school, but didn't want to pay to move to the Front Range to take online classes, and so they stayed here. But that was a small number of students. That wouldn't drive up enrollment by 4%. This year, we did have a slight drop off in enrollment, but I think the one thing that's really important to remember, and we try to stress on campus, is even with a slight drop in enrollment in fall 2022, we are still better off than we were fall 18. We were able to absorb this 1 year of a decrease in enrollment. Yes?
Steve, are these full and part-time students or only full-time?
These are students on campus, so I would have to make sure, but I'm fairly certain it would include part-time students as well, as long as they're registered for classes. And you can see the business school tracks the college enrollment as well. The pre-COVID, when President Striticus got here, we redid our strategic plan. We put a lot of effort into coming up with what the sweet spot for the colleges and enrollment. And that number is 3,700. That was in our strategic plan to hit 3,700. Somewhere around here, pandemic happens. We decided we weren't going to stress about the 3,700. But that really for us is a sweet spot. Some of you in here probably remember a time when the fort was over 4,000 students. From my perspective, I don't want to speak for campus, my perspective, we don't have the infrastructure for that. Last year, our dorms were at 100% occupancy, and that was with mid 3,000s. If you add another 500 students to that, I'm not sure how that looks. And some of you who were here when there was 4,000 students, maybe you recall, and it worked out just fine. But our goal has been 3,700 students. In terms of degrees conferred, I actually do think there's a bit of a COVID issue here with degrees conferred. Our degrees conferred have been declining. And if you look, schools do not report, for the most part, do not report four-year graduation rates. Anyone know typical graduation time now? 6 years. 6 years. And so I know. Yes. When I went to school, we did it in 4. And if it meant taking silver classes, you did it. But right now, 6 years is a typical time to graduation. I do think COVID did have a negative impact on our degrees conferred. But I do think we feel pretty optimistic about next year rebounding. We won't know any numbers that anyone were to present to you now about next year's enrollment. You'd have to look at them with a grain of salt. We have a thing called census days, which is usually about 2 weeks into a semester. People say they're coming to the college in the fall, but they tell 4 colleges they're showing up in the fall. And then they only go to 1. And so we have a thing called MELT. So someone right now could say, yes, I'm going to Fort Lewis College, and we count them in our numbers that we would report out now, but they may not actually show up in the fall. They melt. And so hopefully Mike will let me come back in a few months and give a different update where we could talk about fall 23 numbers. There are some there's a ton of projects going on campus. And so I'm going to touch on about 0.5% of noteworthy projects happening on campus. And Mike may jump in on the Opportunity Now program. That is a project that's grant funding made available by OEdit, and that is a workforce development grant program for upskilling, reskilling folks. That, I believe, the coverage area is Region 9 off Southwest Colorado. We interviewed a few business folks a couple months ago now. Number one thing that people were looking for in reskilling and upskilling in their employees or future employees is soft skills, leadership, professionalism, things along those lines. So the Alliance is actually the lead applicant on the application, and we should hear on that. When do we hear on that? May, and that is certificate programs. And that would be a lot of collaboration between the Alliance and the college and across campus and college, not just the business school. Anything you want to add?
Just partnering with industry.
Partnering with industry, yes. We have ambitious goals for numbers of I don't want to say students, participants to go through the program. So if we get that funding and we feel optimistic, hopefully, we'll come back to this group and folks will send some of your employees or have people to refer to come to the program. The business school did submit an application to the Department of Commerce for funding to launch the C4I Minority Business Incubator, which would simply be an incubator program run through the center geared towards minority business owners and entrepreneurs. The reality is, if you look at the feds and even some of the state, Southwest Colorado, most of it is actually considered eligible for minority funding because a lot of our areas are economically depressed. And so it's minority broadly defined. We should find out about that application here in a few weeks. And I should point out, Mike, the project run budget is
$1.5 million.
$1.5 million. The Minority Business Incubator budget is just under $1.6 million. So we're doing a lot of big things, which is awesome. And then just from a selfish standpoint, having an audience, we've embarked on a SOBA, School of Business Administration branding framework. We have a lot going on. It falls upon me to be able to communicate what we're doing out to people, our promise to students and community members. We've fallen short there. So with Mike's help, actually, we were able to partner up with a group called Brand Trust based out of Chicago. And we've been doing some branding framework work with them for the past few weeks. They've done surveys. Some of you may have done the surveys. They've surveyed students, alumni, faculty, staff. They've done one-on-one interviews with stakeholders. We were in this room last Tuesday. They flew in for an all-day workshop. And we're just cranking out data to be able to tell the business school story better. I'll show you very fast some preliminary results. And if you're a School of Business alum, maybe some of this rings true to you, and I won't read through all of these, but all the research they've been doing, their preliminary analysis shows there's kind of eight pillars or core things that people who are affiliated with the business school experience. And you may experience one, you may experience all of them, but things like being connected to the faculty and other people on campus, things like having to speak, being impacted. I feel like I'm able to go out now and solve real world challenges. Growth, community. Community for us is huge. We want to be a part of the community and work with businesses, whether it's internships, placements, projects, whatever. And we had a faculty member do an impact study for the hospital not that long ago. We've had faculty members do impact studies for the meltdown, for Snowdown. Maybe Snowdown fell through. But anyway, this is a preview. Hopefully, this work should be done in a few weeks. And if you don't hear about it here, I'm sure you will hear about it because we're proud of what we're doing in the business school, and we want to be able to communicate that to our partners in the community. Thank you.
Steve, thanks for that. Thanks just from the college in general, enrollment and the partnership between the School of Business and our local business community.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Next, we've got Shauna and Ted.
These are all the pictures.
That's what I looked like when I worked in DC.
Well, good morning, everyone. We obviously both work for Platte County. I'm Ted Holt and Shauna Legarza, and I'm very glad that Mike invited us up here because 'tis the season for emergency management, and I'm so glad that we're able to speak to you folks as organizational leaders because we'd love to use you as a kind of a pyramid scheme to get all the information to your people. We have all kinds of ways to let folks know what's happening, be it a flood, which is our current concern. That'll be followed, of course, very quickly by fire season. So it's a huge county. Getting people evacuated, letting people know what's happening is an ongoing challenge. And the more folks that are tied in to what we're doing, the easier that is. You can kind of almost follow along in real time. That's where we're trying to get to. So that is my job, but I'm going to let the expert speak on this. I'm not going to go through Shauna's resume because it would leave us all with a sense of inadequacy. Anyway, but yes, I mean, we're maybe closing County Road 250 today for flooding. Trips Creek is flooding, I hear, right? So, Shauna.
Yeah, so Shauna Lagarza, I'm your Director of Emergency Management for La Plata County now. Retired fire director from Washington DC. So started the Salmon Hotshot crew back in 2002, if anybody remembers that. So it's good to be back home. So I've been here for 3 years now. I was going to talk a little bit today about fire, flood, and mud. I know I have about 8 minutes, right? So as far as fire, how many people in here signed up for Code Red? Okay, not even half. That's a start. So walking away from today's meeting, signing up for Code Red, it's very important because that's how we're going to give you alerts and warning notifications if something happens, whether it's fire, flood, or mud, right? And it's a program, you get signed up on your cell phone, and when we send out notifications either from 911 dispatch or we do secondary evacuations, you're going to get notified. And that's super important because then that helps us and the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department know that you've been notified and where you're going to go and how do we take care of you. So please do sign up. I know it's confusing sometimes with those kind of programs, so go to our website, La Plata County, go to Emergency Management. My coordinator, Rob Farino, who's also a retired firefighter, working here in emergency management for us, has nice videos about how to sign up for Code Red, right? And watch the videos and get signed up for that. So also with fire, we are doing some really good programs in La Plata County with City of Durango and with Durango Fire Protection District and your other fire departments looking at your watersheds and to protect the drinking water of Durango. So if you look up our valley, up the 240, up to City of Durango Reservoir, all that mountainous area coming down, we have about $2 million of grants that we secured from 2021 until now that we work in that partnership with those 3 people I just told you, and starting to look at private landowners, community land, and city land to help mitigate the fuels on your watershed, right? Why is that important? Because when you have a big fire and it burns through your area, moonscapes the area, we've all seen it from 416 to Missionary Ridge, to Lightner Creek, to East Canyon, wherever. And then when it moonscapes and takes out all that fuel there, then when it does rain, where you have runoff like we have now, nothing can stop it. And all the mud comes down into your drinking water. And then you have multiple challenges all the way down the road, right? So we do have a slide on that. I'm not sure where it's at on here, but it's called the Wildfire Watershed Protection Fund. It's only a couple years old, but it's super important, the work that we're doing, and we're just starting to get rolled out now with that. We did a lot of work on the city or county land in Edgemont, 17 acres in Edgemont that we started work on. It was me and my guys with a chainsaw because we don't have any people working on that. So fire is really important. What we're doing, get signed up. We're doing a lot of mitigation work in the county for that. Flood, fire, flood, and mud, right? That's what happens. Flooding is going on right now. We started about a month and a half ago, doing a partial opening of your emergency operations center, looking where places have flooded in the past in the county, because it's going to probably happen again in those areas, not just your Missionary Ridge areas or your 416 areas, but general ditches all across the county that are rising. It's happening right now, headed out to Trip Creek when we're done here to kind of look at what's going on in the Trip Creek area, right? And you can see it generally driving around the county. So what have we done now? We have an incident management team in the county. We get ourselves organized. We talk about what are we going to do for logistics? How are we going to notify you? So Code Red is not just for fire. Code Red's for other things too, right? Code Red's for sending out notifications on inundation maps when one of your lakes or dams if something bad happens, right? So getting signed up for Code Red. Flooding is happening. We have sandbags available across the county that you can find on the county website that tend to push some of that out. But as far as flooding, we monitor with National Weather Service, also getting our radar pretty soon, thank goodness, in another couple months. But we listen in on webinars, we check stream totals, and we look at things. We get information from the public. Call me, call our number on the webpage so that I can go out there and look, right? So flooding, the waters are gonna rise and you're gonna have flooding, it's gonna happen. Right? It got warmer yesterday than they had predicted from just the meeting we had a week ago. And it's going to be like that for a couple more days, and then it's going to tread down a little bit. So fire, flood, mud comes next. Mud is just as problematic as having your flooding, trying to get the mud, trying to get the debris. If you go to our website for emergency management, we have something called the Emergency Operations Plan, and it tells us, and you all, what do we need to do if we have a mud situation? Where do we take the debris? Where do we take it? Where does it go? How do we get all the stuff that's there? So super, super important coordination with that, that we do in emergency management, which is a great job. After I did 31 years firefighting, 20 years as a hotshot, right? So now I can take some of those skills that we learned, doing all that kind of stuff into command system and bring it into emergency management. And my last thing I have is we're wrapping that up the last week in April. We started, my first year here was 2020, and we started an annual wildfire evacuation exercise. Because one of the things I saw in my travels of being a firefighter was most communities thought they were prepared for when something happened, because everybody is really proud of their community, right? Super proud of what we do in this community, but most communities were not prepared. Their business leaders, their county employees, their city people, their residents, they didn't know what to do or how to organize if something like that happened. So when I come back to this county role, I thought, let's put on an annual wildfire evacuation exercise. We did our first one in 2021. Los Ranchitos got evacuated, worked with Upper Pine, and the people came out and they did, what do I do? I get a tag, and where do I go? And what about my cat, my dog, my snake, my lizard, right? So we take care of that. You do have access and bumps and needs. You have, oxygens or wheelchairs or things like that, So we started the exercise in 21. We did one last year in 2022 at Falls Creek Ranch and like 3 other subdivisions. We're doing it again this year. Last week in April, we have 5 subdivisions. There's going to be hypothetical things that are going to happen in that subdivision. And they're going to get notices through community alerts and stuff that you're going to have to go to evacuation point, which is different than an evacuation shelter. How do you do that? And what does it feel like? And do you have a bag packed? Like who has a go bag if you had to leave right now? That's pretty darn good. Usually I ask that question, I get like 1, Because, well, that was 4, so that's pretty good. But nobody thinks it'll happen to them. I was fire director in California. I travel around and give talks like, hey, are you ready to go if you get evacuated? They're like, don't look at the instructor, because we just don't think it's going to happen to us. That is just how it is all across this country from what I've observed, So I welcome you to come to the Emergency Operations Center. This is a couple pictures of last year with our incident management team. We've organized. We implement the incident command system in the county of how we organize around something like that. You can come down 221 Turner Drive, just above SCA. Just go right above SCA. We're the lower part of the 911 center, and you can observe, what do we do? What are we doing here to help you all when something goes bad? The main evacuations are going to be the 25th and the 26th. On the 27th, we're going to actually drive out to some houses and do some structure assessments to see if your houses are able to survive a wildland fire. So come by, find my information. Some of you look familiar from the COVID, helped out with that. Email us on the website, call Ted, what have you, and love to have you come down and see what we do in emergency management to help us help people prepare. So.
And especially some of you with, larger organizations, we'd be happy to come there and speak to your people as well. Help everybody get registered, signed up like that. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Sean and Ted, thanks for coming out and sharing and helping us again prepare for the next season of this with it. Flood, mud, fire,
flood, mud. Flood, mud.
That's something new to teach my kid tonight. But and I think it's great you're highlighting your work with all hazards. It's not just fire. We tend to think of fire, but there's so many other. Next, we've got Devin and Lynn to come talk about some of, I think it's the bond work that's being done with NINR and the projects that are ongoing. So welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Compton. I work for Jacobs. We're managing Durango School District Bond Program at the moment. I am the physical presence for today. Devin's actually online and he'll be providing project and program updates.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my camera up because I gotta keep my face pretty close to my see that. So, thank you for having us today. We will have some program and project updates. And then the link that Lynn provided below, you can always go check that on 9R's Bond website for our monthly updates that we provide to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. That'll have updated photos, updated project updates, etc. So program-wise, we have a total of about 82% of our budget committed. So our total program budget's around 115 million. So 82% of that's been committed. Of that commitment, 21% has been spent. So we have about 18% remaining to be committed, and that's for a couple of projects and our contingencies on the program. So of that commitment, of that $95 million, we are sitting just about 68% of that is all local. And that's pretty much where we think we'll be landing at the end of the program. We have a big contract that'll be non-local for the demo and abatement of Miller Middle School. And then we have a couple other summer projects that are anticipated to be local to balance that out. We're looking at about 68% local participation on the program. So I'm going to go through a couple of major project updates with Miller and Impact, and then we will cruise through the rest of the presentation within our timeline. So Miller Middle School right now, we are working on our foundations of the new building now that we're out of the snow. We did see some impacts to progress there for a couple months with the major snow we saw. So now that we're dried out, we're working on our foundations, and demo in the 2004 edition is pretty much wrapped up, minus a few select trades. We'll go through a couple photos here. So you can see our bridge connection foundation was started. This was end of February update in terms of projects because we're working on our end of March right now. So you'll see if you kind of are driving by Miller that there's actually a big concrete footer and stem wall poured there and finished and backfilled. Go to the next photos. You can see it getting formed up there, concrete. And then here's our site, kind of right when we thought we were going to be able to get started, and then that March snow hit us. So now we are actually digging out some of the foundations for the new building that's going to sit on this site where the field used to be. And that bridge connection foundation is right up there next to the existing 2004 edition where it's parked. We did have to cut into the slope for the new gym that's going to sit in that hillside a little bit. So we had to cut that out and get it shored up. That's geocraft in there, getting it stabilized, concreted up to get shored up for the foundations. There's it all finished up. Here's the 2004 edition that we are keeping and just fully getting out and remodeling. So there's demo in progress. It's mostly cleaned up now, as you can see in this photo. So we're getting a lot of our supplemental foundation work in there, extending footers, getting any additional steel in place where we can start putting rough-in back. Okay, and Impact. If anybody's driving by the high school, you can see the amount of progress out there. We're getting the build. We're working on drying right now at the roof and all the exterior sheathing. A lot of roughing going on. We can go to the photos. So this was back kind of the end of February, getting the structure up. Starting our exterior and interior framing. Getting our roof decking on. And so now if you guys are out there and you drive by it, it almost looks yellow. That's just the dense glass sheathing. So now it's getting all dried in at the moment. These photos will not provide that update as that'll be in our end of March update. So we had a lot of MEP and fire roughing started at the end of February. Got our slabs in and we started doing the initial polishing of the slab before we got going on roughing. All right, and so I'm going to cruise through the rest of the updates here. We got one secure vegetable plan for this summer at Park Elementary School. We did finish Durango High School, Escalona Middle School, Animas Valley, and Needham last summer, and those are closed out now, so moving on to Park. Roofing, we have four last roofing projects this summer at Florida Mesa, Escalona Middle School, Riverview, and Durango High School. Durango High School is going to be a 2-summer improvement project, so we have a bunch of work planned for this summer in terms of a lot of site work with the parking lots, the courtyard in the front, a lot of interior architectural work, and some ADA things fixed, some painting, things like that. So a lot of work here at Durango High School this summer and next summer. Needham Elementary School, we just got a little bit left on that. That was last summer, but we're wrapping up now. Escalante is a summer 2024 project. That is pretty much wrapped up, ready to go. We are just waiting to get our state solution in for permit until since it's the summer 2024 project, but the GMP is in place with FCI. Park is getting closed out right now, so that project's about wrapped up from last summer. Florida Mesa is planned for this summer. We've got our GMP in place with FCI, and we're ready to get started. Sunnyside is getting closed out right now and is wrapped up from last summer. These are some of the district managed bid packages that we are tracking financials on. So transportation is ordering more buses. Technology is working on network upgrades and fiber install. And then charter school allocation, Mountain Middle School, and Animus have taken all of their funds. Juniper has about 14% of their 2.5 million. Riverview and Animus, those design, the design is getting wrapped up on both of those right now. And then those are 2024 construction projects, both going to non-construction. So we'll be working on their GMPs over the next couple months, getting ready for that 2024 summer.
Devin, what's a GMP?
Sorry, guaranteed maximum price. It's the contractor's final pricing exercise, and that's what buttons up their full contract for again. One other project update that we are doing that didn't make this update in February is Big Picture High School. Is obviously moving to their new space. We just got wrapped up with designing and getting all the contracts in place with Meteor Furniture to provide new furniture for that new space. And that's the update I have for you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Devin, for joining us remotely. Sounds like it's going to be a busy construction season around 9R. We've got a few minutes left for some updates from our local government agencies. So we'll start with Clark.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Hey, I don't have a whole lot. I just wanted to bring to your attention a lot of state bills coming in at the state level. I hope everybody's on a list getting to read that stuff. One of them is State Bill 23-213, which would relieve local authority of land use code and zoning and give that back to the state. So that should create a lot of concern for people. And so I think it had its first reading. There's other ones out there. Please be aware of that stuff. That's my public service announcement. Take care.
Mayor Tarkington here this morning.
I'm going to represent her today.
Good morning.
She wasn't able to be here. So Nicole Killian, I'm Director of Community Development for the town of Bayfield, and we do have a lot going on as well. Definitely paying attention to that state bill, and Bayfield did put together a resolution in opposition of that, so that did go out last week to our local representatives. We also have some big developments going on that are newer than what have been presented recently. One of them is 80 townhome units, so workforce housing in Bayfield. We have in review tonight with our planning commission, those 80 units as well as 69 that we're hoping will get deed restricted. So, and they're all townhomes in Bayfield. So that's a big thing for our community. Workforce housing is very important to us right now. And so just a lot going on in development and looking at a busy summer in Bayfield. Happy to answer any questions after the meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Buell is here today from the city. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jessica Buell, City Councilor. I'm filling in for Kim Baxter. She is out of town. So a couple of things with the City of Durango. Our Community Development Department, they are hosting Building Community, Exploring City Planning and Architecture through film. It'll begin with a documentary film about the work of Danish architect and urban designer Jan Gehl, and that's at 5 p.m. April 13th at the Powerhouse. For our Creative Economy Division, the Basics of Business Success is a 3-part training session, and it's being offered to our lodgers tax participants. We had a bunch of lodger tax participants who received funding last year and struggled with some of like the basics of utilizing that funding. And so we've put together a great free program for any of our lodgers tax recipients to go through to help them with that. Tommy talked about our bump out program. 12 are participating, and we had a decline in numbers after we kind of revamped the program a little bit. 10 are currently deployed, and we have 2 more coming out in May. The URA, our 2023 Midtown Peak Grant is now open. So it's designed for property owners to make large property improvements of up to $50,000. So the link to the grant can be found at durangogov.org/URA. Just like I was mentioned, we're keeping a close eye on SB 23-213 that will limit the ability of city to manage land use and zoning at the local level instead centralizing it at the state capitol, which obviously Denver's ideas for housing and making it affordable are very different from ours. And so we're in opposition to that, and council is getting the letter to send as well in opposition along with CML, and we're working with CAST very closely. Also, Prop 123, funds for affordable housing are going to become available in the second half of 2023. So our staff is currently working on a baseline data for the city of Durango and monitoring additional information and guidance as it becomes available. And last, sustainability. We're now accepting Green Durango grant applications to fund projects that have a positive impact on community-wide sustainability objectives. So businesses, nonprofits, community groups, and individuals are invited to apply, and it's due by April 24th. There you go.
Commissioner Salka.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Salka, La Plata County Commissioner. A couple items here happening in La Plata County. Thank you to Shauna and Ted for talking on our emergency management. Right now, County Health Department, we are moving forward. We are on track. We are on time to be prepared for January 1st of 2024. BOCC, we're having a board retreat here in a couple of weeks where a couple of topics that we'll be discussing will be housing priorities, broadband priorities, and short-term rentals. We will start the process of looking into short-term rental permitting process here in La Plata County. The other item too as well is roads. Hearing a lot from our residents in La Plata County of our roads. We've got a lot of moisture. Roads is really is a major hot topic here in La Plata County. We've approved overtime for staff to be able to go out there and work overtime to be able to blade and grade roads. So we'll be discussing a little bit on our road priorities here for our board retreat. Chapter 90, their version 3 draft is out on our county website. Please check it out. Provide any input to the county commissioners. We will have a April 18th next week, Tuesday, public meeting. So please attend if you'd like to speak on that item. Broadband, we currently, partnering with Region 9, have worked out our lease agreement with Region 9, and Region 9 will now start accepting ISPs to be able to co-locate their equipment at our old main post office. So we'll have a great opportunity for ISPs to expand their coverage. Highway 151 fiber line, 30+ miles from Ignacio to Pagosa Springs, is still underway. Moving forward, we're reaching each deadline for DOLA. So look forward to reaching high-speed internet to the rural parts of La Plata County and Archuleta County. Also, we're waiting to receive word from our NTIA funding request through Region 9 for $66 million for our region for broadband. It's looking good so far, so hopefully there'll be a huge amount, $66 million for our region, plus around $80+ million that both tribes have received for broadband. We're hitting broadband hard here in our region, so thank you to Region 9. As you heard from Ignacio and Bayfield and Durango, it's legislation session right now, and we're really concerned about Senate Bill 213. We've received a letter from Bayfield. If Ignacio is wanting to, if they're going to take a stance on that, please let your commissioners know, as well as Durango when that time comes. Let us know. We will be giving guidance to Colorado Counties Incorporated this Thursday and Friday on what stance we have on that 213. The other item too as well is our planning director position is posted. So if you're interested, please apply. And then last but not least, we just received word yesterday, United Air is now adding another line to Durango to Houston. So fly as much as you can, as much as possible. So we keep this our airport attractive and keep expanding coverages. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Salka. Our next meeting is May 8th. Great to see a good crowd out again.
Yeah.
Early spring, and then last reminder, if you're interested in being a coffee sponsor, please sign up or ask one of us. Have a great month. Thanks, everyone.